Hey, MCE crew, in another sign of America losing dominance, economic and otherwise, did you know that we are still negotiating this deal? We're back at the table with Iran on this nuclear deal. And guess who's negotiating on behalf of the United States? Not the United States. Russia. Real time, right now. Okay, yeah, that Russia. Man, it's crazy. All right, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we're getting slapped around there. Another sign of us losing political dominance. And when we lose political dominance, we lose economic dominance. This is all part and parcel of what I keep saying about the dollar losing its reserve currency status. We're also spending more money, $13 billion going to Ukraine in this new $1.5 trillion spending package that Pelosi took time out of her day drinking to go ahead and send up. Okay, they're dealing with that in Congress. Look, this Ukrainian money, this $13.6 trillion, you know, that's going into the corrupt pockets of a lot of politicians. If I had my way, they'd be in prison.
You motherfuckers will be playing basketball in Pelican Bay when I get finished with you.
But look, I'm out here starting the video at a community garden that's not far away from where I live. A lot of farmland around here. This is what I was telling you guys about. So if you live in a townhome, if you live in an apartment, hey, get on the internet. Figure out where your nearest community garden is. Get into it. And what I'm going to go through in this video is going to convince you to get out and do that today. Because you're going to need to replace some of your calories to insulate you from these spikes in food prices. All right. We talked about Hungary having shut down its wheat exports, putting pressure on the global market. The world's changing, guys. So get out and find yourself a community garden and start producing some of your own calories. If you got land and all that's growing on that land is grass, you might want to think about some raised beds or putting in a larger garden, planting some high-calorie foods like potatoes maybe, beans, nutritious stuff. All right, so let's get into this with these damn fools in the United States government and how they are continuing to destroy the U.S. dollar, the fiat currency. But there are things you can do about it. Let's go. All right, gang, I'm back at Money Changes Everything headquarters. Now, the reason why I'm always harping on following the law in order to save on taxes and to mitigate your taxes, there are plenty of laws that allow you to do that. And it is more important than ever that you reduce your tax burden legally. And you know why? Because these politicians are using you as a piggy bank and doing all kinds of things to enrich themselves. Let me connect some dots for you. Now, we're going to talk about this in more detail. The fact that they're out here, they just passed this bill. Pelosi is giving $13.6 billion. She wants to give $13.6 billion to the Ukraine. Now, her son, Mitt Romney's son, and of course, Joe Biden's son, Hunter, are all involved in Ukraine. And there was this little incident back in 2006 where the prosecutor over there in Ukraine, Viktor Shokin, started investigating a company called Burisma. This was a natural gas company, and Hunter Biden was in the mix. Burisma had paid him $3 million for what? I don't know. The man does not have any type of, degrees in energy or, natural gas transmission or engineering or anything like that. But what he does have is a very influential father who was actually the vice president of the United States of America. There's only one other guy that has more influence, and that is, the president of the United States. So there was a little corruption going on there. And of course, Biden didn't want that exposed. So what did he do? He actually used the power of the United States of America to say, we're not going to give you guys, Ukraine, this money we promised you, these loan guarantees we promised you, unless you back off of this investigation. And guess what? This isn't conjecture. Your boy, Biden, he freely admits this.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Okay, so where do you think he's getting that money? Those loan guarantees are coming from. They're coming from the United States taxpayer. This is why you have to understand the strategies that will allow you to pay less in taxes legally. And I prefer to pay less in taxes in the future. Go ahead, take it now, all right? And put me in a position where I can access my money tax-free later, because later is going to be when taxes are higher. And the reason for that is because the United States of America, A, can't stop spending money, and B, the currency is going to, go into this cycle of devaluation that it's been involved in for quite some time now. And they're just going to keep raising taxes to try to dig themselves out of that hole. Case in point, the U.S. House of Representatives voted on Wednesday to pass a $1.5 trillion omnibus spending bill that includes $13.6 billion in aid for Ukraine and European allies, and would fund the federal government through September 30th. So this 1.5 trillion, okay, that's going to fund the government minus this 13.6 billion, which is going to Ukraine. Now get this, hours earlier, Democrat lawmakers scrapped the bill's initial $15.6 billion COVID aid provisions, marking a major setback for the Biden administration. So what they did was they said, you know what? Screw America. Let's forget about this COVID aid bill and take this $15 billion that we were going to give to the American people, or we were going to give back to the American people, and give it to the Ukraine instead. Now, after you've heard what's going on in Ukraine with the Biden administration, Pelosi's son, research this stuff. It's out there in abundance. It's not hidden. Romney's son, and who God knows who else, okay, is using this Ukraine piggy bank. Doesn't all this stuff that's happened of late start to make a lot more sense to you? Okay, so Ukraine's going to get some money, $13.6 billion. United States of America, our citizens, this COVID relief thing, going to get nothing. And I don't know, European governments are going to get some too. This is why you need to start to really strategize on how to reduce your tax burden. Taxes and inflation are conspiring to, really slow you down on your run toward financial independence. So how can you do it? Well, you can mitigate your tax burden now by contributing to qualified accounts. What's a qualified account? 401k, traditional IRA, HSA, although the HSA has some benefits that those first two don't. Now, here's the thing. When you contribute to a qualified account, you're getting into an arrangement with the United States government that says you put money in there, and what we'll do for you is we will defer your taxation. So therefore, let's say you make $100,000 and you put $5,000 into one of those qualified plans. Sorry about that light, guys. You put $5,000 into one of those qualified plans. Okay. So instead of your income being taxed at $100,000, it'll be taxed at $95,000 because the government is saying we're going to give you deferral on those taxes until later on down the road when you turn 59 and a half, or between 59 and a half and early 70s. But there's a whole lot of stipulations that come with that. First of all, in a qualified account, what you must know, and I'm not saying not to contribute to a qualified account. I am telling you, though, that the reality is when you do, the money is not liquid, okay? We got a state's attorney here in Baltimore City that is under federal indictment right now because there's some question as to whether or not she understood how to take money out of a qualified plan. The money's not liquid, so you just can't use it as a bank account, all right? The federal government is saying, yeah, there are a couple of there are a couple of ways that you can access the money now for a very few reasons. I'm going to be honest with you. When I initially bought this property, when my wife and I initially bought this property, I took a loan from my 401k, a loan. Okay, I had to pay it back. And if I didn't pay it back, the government was going to slap me with a 10% penalty and taxes at my current rate. Okay, so it's not liquid under most circumstances. I had to pay that money back. And the loan, the reasons you can get a loan from a qualified account are very few and far between. Okay, there's hardship, and then there's, buying it, using it to buy real estate, primary residence. At least it was back when I was, needed it to do that. If you think that you want to do that with your 401k or traditional IRA, you need to check with your plans administrator. All right, so you've got that. Then when the money does become liquid at 59.5, you can, start to take distributions. At that point, you are responsible for the taxes. Remember, the government said they deferred the taxes. They didn't, forgive them. They deferred them. So now, when you're 59.5 or older, you've got to start taking those distributions. When you start taking those distributions, you're going to get taxed. And a lot of people say, well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket at that time. How do you know? Taxes are going to go up. We already went over that in terms of the level of spending that we're engaging in. The trend is toward increases in taxation, especially if Democrats continue to get their way. All right. Democrats like to raise taxes. It's just the way it is. It's not an indictment on you if you're a Democrat. This is just reality. Accept it. So you don't know what kind of tax bracket you'll be in the future. Therefore, I prefer vehicles that are going to allow me to pay the tax now, and then in the uncertain future, I know what the tax obligation is today, but in the uncertain future, when I'm pretty sure it will go up, how much I don't know, then that's where I get my break. And you can do that with an insurance policy. You can also do that with, in a way, you can do that with an HSA, depending on what you spend the money on. Okay, and we've done videos on HSAs before, but the most powerful vehicle that's going to allow you to put away a decent amount of money, it's going to allow you to have that money grow tax-free, then it's going to give you the ability to access that money tax-free, and give you the ability to pass that money on to your heirs tax-free. Okay, so thereby, generating generational wealth. That's an insurance policy. All right, ask Hillary Clinton about that. That's what she uses and is going to avoid the estate tax. She's a very wealthy woman. She's going to avoid the estate tax, give Chelsea and her grandkids a leg up in life, a larger one than they already have, which is fine. And they're going to do that by virtue of an insurance policy, which is not subject to the estate tax. Okay, so that is one way that you can legally use the tax code to sidestep all of these little tax increases that are coming and get your money, to the extent that you can get most of your money, out of the way of, giving it to the Ukraine. What are they going to do with it that you couldn't do? We got children, and somebody said to me the other day, oh, I feel so sorry for the Ukrainian homeless children. I do too. I feel sorry for anybody that's homeless. I was homeless in college for a little bit, okay? And I definitely feel sorry for children who have no power to control their situation. That's tragic. Anywhere in the world that it happens. But we got that right here in America. In abundance, okay? So if you want to affect change here in America, then put some money away for yourself that's not touched by taxes, and you can direct it not to the Ukraine, but to your city, okay? Or to your family, and people are suffering in your family. All right, let's cover this one other item really quick, because Biden is just, this guy's getting boxed around like crazy, man. And it's all due to the fact that he was never ready for that job. And some might say, well, he was the vice president. Yes, he was. And people looked at him and said, hey, Obama's not looking so bad now. When you look at this duo of Biden and Harris, Harris?
Okay, I can first.
All right, I alluded to this in the beginning when we were talking about Russia is actually doing the negotiation on behalf of the United States in this new Iran deal, this Iran nuke deal, because Iran has pretty much said, just like Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, he said he don't want to care, he doesn't care what Joe Biden thinks about him. We went over the video yesterday where he won't even accept Biden's calls, all right? The Iranians said, we don't want to talk to the Americans. We'll talk about the issue through the Russians. We will relate them the message, and then they'll go through and talk to the Americans. Yeah, the same Russia that we are in a proxy war with right now. These guys are negotiating for us. Yeah. Western powers on Tuesday warned Russia against wrecking an almost completed deal on bringing the United States and Iran back into compliance with the 2015 nuclear accord, as Iran's top negotiator was set to return from consultations in Tehran. 11 months of talks to restore the deal, which lifted sanctions on Iran in return for curbs on its nuclear program, have reached their final steps. This is another big boondoggle with Iran leading us around by the nose, steadily enriching and also getting sanctions relief from us. But they, being the negotiations, have been complicated by a last-minute demand from Russia for guarantees from the United States that Western sanctions targeting Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine won't affect its business with Iran. Okay? So Russia is saying, look, we got business with Iran. We do brisk commerce with them. We want to guarantee United States, and since we all over here talking on your behalf, we want to guarantee that there are going to be no sanctions put in place between us and Iran. U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland, she's one of these Harvard, Yale, one of these Ivy League grads that know it all and know nothing. She said Russia was seeking to reap extra benefits from its participation in the effort to restore the nuclear agreement, but it will not succeed. Think about what this idiot just said. She's saying, yeah, Russia's over there, dealing on our behalf, and they want a quid pro quo, which is standard in any political negotiation, but we ain't giving it to them. This is why we are losing respect left and right. We can't sit at the table with Iran because they don't want to hear from us. They don't want to talk to us. They don't respect Biden enough to sit down directly with United States negotiators. So Russia is doing it on our behalf. So in exchange for that, we're telling Russia, and we're not going to give you anything either. This is Newland's quote. Russia is trying to up the ante and broaden its demands with regard to the nuclear deal, and we are not playing let's make a deal. Yeah, you are. You're sitting there trying to make a deal, lady. Newland, the number 3 U.S. diplomat, told a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing. Listen, this is the kind of political leadership we have in this country today. It is lacking. It's like these people are almost insane. They're incredibly arrogant. All right. And they believe that the United States, they think that we are still the United States of maybe the 80s, early 90s. We're not. The Saudi crown prince is not taking Joe Biden's telephone calls. Mind you, they gave Trump a parade to beat the band when he went over there. Okay. So how things have changed. Of course, I'm going to link to all of these articles, guys. Keep up on this situation because this is part and parcel of the United States losing economic dominance in this world. And the more that accelerates, the more we're going to have to be aware of it. Because No matter what happens, we've got to continue our march toward financial independence, okay? So we're going to continue that unabated and well informed. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.